Good morning. You're watching Market Cafe with me, Ankita Saxena, and with me is Harsh Saita. Harsh, what a match yesterday, especially for Messi fans. Did you watch the match?
Oh yes, absolutely, Ankita. I was watching it all the way through. Really sleepy in the show already today, Ankita. and, and you can see those stunning visuals in front of you, right? 3-all was the scoreline. Never seen a scoreline like that. In fact, Argentina was the first country from South America to win the World Cup since 2002, winning it for the first time since 1986. And also, what we've also seen is that a lot of the same nations have continued to win it, and that trend continues this time around as well. So we're seeing that trend play out. In fact, the dominance was starkly clear across the match. 78 minutes is the time period for which Argentina were completely dominant through the game, in fact. And of course, the rest of the 12 minutes was history because Kylian Mbappe took 2 goals straight to Argentina. In fact, when you look at the number of shots as well as shots on target, both for Argentina were double that of France. That just shows the significance of the dominance that Argentina had in play yesterday. So we've seen that happen. Now, some statistics. Argentina is the 3rd nation to win the World Cup final on penalties, and Messi becomes the first player to win 2 Golden Ball awards. Obviously, the best player of the tournament is the player who gets the Golden Ball. Missing the Golden Boot though, Messi. Kylian Mbappe scoring that hat-trick to win the Golden Boot. The Golden Glove won by the Argentinian keeper by a mile, the best keeper in my view. Emi Martinez won that, and the young player of the tournament won by Enzo Fernandez. But what a World Cup it's been, and what an end to Messi's FIFA World Cup career.
Absolutely, Harsh. What a high-octane and nail-biting match for all the football fans, and even those who are not football fans, I'm sure, were glued to the television screens last night. So now let's move on to what the global handover was on Friday. Now, if you look at the stocks, the US stocks dropped on Friday, building on the year-end sell-off. Now, as fears of recession is growing. Now, remember that on Thursday, the Fed had raised interest rates by 50 basis points. It's not, the 50 basis points was already penciled in, but it was actually the Fed's hawkish commentary that they would continue to raise the interest rates through 2023 to 5.1%, which is a larger than expected number that has got the investors worried. Now, obviously, this news has been weighing down the stocks. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 281 points, was down 0.8%. The S&P 500 fell by 1%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite declined 0.9% in trade. Now, all the indices notched a second consecutive week of losses, and if you note that also the trading was especially volatile on Friday because a large amount of options were also expiring. Now, the real estate and the consumer discretionary sectors were the biggest laggards, down nearly 3% and 1.7% respectively. Now, similarly, in Europe also, European stocks were weighed down by the fact that the ECB had raised interest rates from 1.5% to 2% on Thursday, and the fact that they will continue to hike interest rates given the high inflation. So that was the global handover coming in from the US and the European markets. What is the Asia market looking like, Harsh, right now?
Well, quite flat the way I see it, Ankita. In fact, they've slipped slightly into the red as we speak. We're also seeing, in fact, let me switch over to the US futures first because that may give us some kind of indication. But largely flat is where the US futures are. The Dow futures up around 0.1% after a largely flat week, as Ankita did describe it. In fact, we're having quite a torrid month as well. The SPX, which is the S&P 500, is actually down 5% for the month. So, we are seeing a bit of volatility continue towards the end of 2022 when we're looking at Asia as well, largely flat. We're seeing the Nikkei down around 0.4%, so that's the one which is meaningfully lower. The Kospi down around 0.3%, and the ASX 200 is absolutely flat as we speak. Where oil is concerned, slight uptick where oil is concerned. We're seeing crude at $75 plus a barrel, and that's a combination of factors really playing out. One is that there is certain amount of negativity on those rate hikes, with fears of the Federal Reserve tipping US into a recession. And of course, then on the other side, we're also hoping that China reopens for the sake of oil, of course. And if that does happen, then oil prices will go up as well. So there's that combination play that's happening at the moment, which is keeping oil also as volatile, but at the moment well below the $80 a barrel mark. Where gold is concerned, above the $1,800 an ounce, that's where gold is currently at, up around 1/5%, but largely flat, doing really nothing much. US bond yields, keep an eye out on those, but continuing above that 3.5% is where the US 10-year bond yield currently is at. So that's the current roundup of where things are at. We're looking at our own SGX Nifty up around 30 basis points.
Right, thank you for that handover, Harsh. Moving on, a couple of events to watch out for today are, the lock-in period for five-star business, Kani's Technology and Inox Green Energy ends today. Now, remember, these companies made their market debut very recently via IPO, so the lock-in period is going to end today. Also, another debutant on the Dalal Street is KFin Technologies that will open for subscription today. Now, KFin Technologies is a leading technology-driven financial services platform. Now, it is India's largest investor solution provider to Indian mutual funds based on several AMC clients that it services. Now, so that's the IPO that's going to open for subscription today. And also, Bajaj Consumer, is going to commence its buyback via open market route. Now, the company will buy 33 lakh shares at a maximum price of 240 per share. Now, in another news of buyback is the Hinduja Global Solutions will have its board meeting today because they're considering a buyback. And earlier, the company had also announced that there will be a repurchase plan for its paid-up capital of up to 25%, for which the company will be investing 1,000 crore rupees in the buyback plan. So these are the events to watch out for. Do keep an eye out on that.
Well, thanks so much for that, Ankita. We will keep an eye out on that. The number of COVID positive cases, though, and the dead arriving at Beijing's funeral parlors and crematoriums are rising, according to media reports. However, China has not reported a fatality from the virus for 2 weeks now. The Chinese capital is in the grip of its worst COVID wave yet, after officials nationwide abruptly abandoned the stringent curbs that have kept the virus at bay for much of the past 3 years. Staff at general crematoriums have revealed to publications about their kin dying at hospitals or being infected with virus.
Moving on, the yen opened the week higher after a publication reported Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida was planning to revive a 10-year-old accord with the Bank of Japan with the potential to add flexibility around the 2% inflation goal. The currency strengthened as much as 0.6% as traders got their first chance to respond to the reports. Should they be confirmed, they would contrast with comments from Kishida in June, when he said that he expected the BOJ to stick to its 2% inflation target.
Well, and the conflict around Twitter doesn't seem to end. Twitter has now announced that it will prohibit the free promotion of other social media platforms. It will no longer allow users to post usernames and links to their accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and Mastodon. The move sparked instant criticism from many users. Some of these websites have been touted as potential replacements for Twitter.
And speaking of Twitter, Elon Musk is asking users to vote on whether he should step down as the head of Twitter. Musk will abide by the results of the poll, he pledged in a tweet. Now, he also said that going forward, he will hold votes on major policy changes.
Well, and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that protecting the country's borders was a constant priority and that Ukraine was ready for all possible scenarios with Russia and its ally, Belarus. Making this remark on a visit to Belarus amid discussions of a possible new offensive by Russia, Zelensky has issued a new appeal to Western nations to provide Ukraine with effective air defenses.
And according to reports, North Korea has conducted an important final phase test on Sunday, December 18th, for the development of a spy satellite, which it seeks to complete by April 2023. The report was released after the South Korean and Japanese militaries reported North Korea's launch of 2 intermediate-range ballistic missiles towards its east coast.
Well, and James Cameron's Avatar, The Way of Water, fell short of high box office expectations, but international ticket sales spark hope that the long-awaited sequel could still pull in a substantial global haul. The film garnered $134 million at the US box office during its opening weekend, below that $175 million mark that the industry had estimated for it, and just under $135 to $150 million mark that Disney had forecasted.
Note, it is time for us to slip into a short break. You don't go anywhere. There's lots more news on the domestic front on the other side of this break. Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe. Now, moving on to some news on the domestic front. The 48th GST Council meet took place virtually this time round, with the council members taking a few key decisions. As reported by ET Now on December 13th, the council has approved and given its clarification on cess on SUVs. However, there has been no decision on increasing rates in this meet. Now, it has also increased the threshold for prosecution from rupees 1 crore to 2 crore rupees, which could be included in the finance bill soon. Now, and the contentious issue of the GST on online gaming was not taken up. The finance minister said that the GOM report will be circulated to all the states. That will be, the council would decide on that sooner. Now, let's hear out what the finance minister had to say on what was discussed in the meeting.
There were 2 GOM issues which had to be discussed. One relating to the capacity-based taxation on tobacco and good car, and the other relating to the setting up of a tribunal, GST tribunal. So both these have not been taken up. Well, first of all, I'll have to circulate it, the report which has been given. Then, when the council meets, it certainly will be discussed threadbare. So now concerned about widening the tax base. We need the revenue, we are getting it, we are trying to stabilize it at some number, and all that is there. I think there should now be, and most of us agree, we should at every level attempt to widen the GST base. So the focus will be on how much all of us are putting effort towards that, so that state plus the center put an effort consciously to widen the tax base.
the major decisions which the council today took, I think one major path-breaking recommendation is with regard to decriminalizing certain offenses. Three kinds of offenses have been recommended to be decriminalized. They pertain to obstruction or preventing any officer in discharge of his duties, deliberate tampering of material evidence, failure to supply the information. Moreover, the threshold limit of tax amount for launching prosecution in any criminal offense defined under the GST laws, the limit has been increased from 1 crore to 2 crore for all offenses other than those involving fake invoices.
Well, yes, and more on that. My colleague Meghna Mittal has been analyzing all of those details and she joins in with more. Meghna.
Right, so the GST Council meeting was held virtually today, though it was a short one because many of the states were busy with their own state budgets. But many important decisions were taken in today's meeting, one of them being that the threshold for prosecution has been increased from rupees 1 crore to 2 crore, and 3 offences in 3 areas have been decriminalized. Though all these decisions will come into effect in the finance bill, that's what the Revenue Secretary has confirmed to us, because they will need to be passed from the respective states. The states will have to make amendments. Another important thing that was amiss in today's meeting, that all the GM reports that we had told you about, one is on the pan masala, the another being on the formation of the appellate tribunal, was not discussed today because of the shortage of time. They will be passed on to the next council meeting. Also on the GM on the online gaming, as we had told you earlier, it was not on the agenda and is likely to be discussed in the next GST Council meeting, which is expected to be a fiscal one. Apart from that, as we had also told you earlier, that GST Council has approved the clarification on the SUV. There are certain conditions that will be notified in due time, the length of the vehicle, etc. That will be notified. Apart from that, the 5% GST on ethyl alcohol has been extended to standalone refineries as well. That also we had told you earlier. So it's again a confirmation of our news break. So many important decisions have been taken, but the finance minister did mention that no tax rate increase has been decided in today's meeting. It was not on the agenda. So the government is ensuring there is no increase, but widening of tax base is definitely on the government's radar.
Right, and staying with the news from the oil and gas space, in an exclusive conversation with ET Now, the new chairman of ONGC, Arun Kumar Singh, says that the company is okay with the suggestions of the Kirit Bharat Committee report on the floor and ceiling price for gas. Listen in to this excerpt from the conversation.
It is a balance. Basically, you have, as a country, you have to give enough money, enough remuneration to the producers, so that producer continue to explore and produce for the country. Second angle is customer side, that customer's affordability side. So that also is an issue. I'm 100% sure between affordability and the third angle is LNG price abroad, because we are still importing around 50% plus LNG to make our gas demand. So how to promote indigenous production, how to keep LNG gas price affordable, particularly for few sectors, and how to make the deficit from LNG imports. We have to balance all three goals.
It has recommended that the prices should be linked with the market from Jan 2027. So do you think by the time a country does not need...
By the time, then possibly, I'm saying demand and the global scenario will make world in a manner that it suits India for enabling government to come out of this sector. Because right now it can't be done, because customer interest and producer interest has to be balanced only by government. But by 27, if it is free market economy, then of course what market forces will tell, people will do.
Well, and moving on from oil, earnings season in India will kick off come January, but IT major Accenture sets the tone from what can be expected. In fact, its Q1 earnings has beat estimates on the revenue front. it has unchanged its FY23 sales guidance but has lowered its Q2 revenue guidance, which could signal pressure on IT companies amid rising interest rates and macroeconomic uncertainty. As for Q1 revenues, they've come in at $15.7 billion, an increase of 5% in US dollar terms and 15% in local currency. EPS has come in at $3 and 11% increase on a year-on-year basis.
And private sector bank IDFC First Bank has announced a waiver of charges on a number of customer-centric services such as cash deposits, withdrawals, demand drafts, IMPS and SMS alerts, among other, ahead of its foundation day. Now, the bank announced zero free banking on savings account, the bank said in a release. Now, the lender said it has waived fees on 25 commonly used banking services related to savings account such as cash deposit and withdrawal at branches, third-party cash transactions, demand drafts, IMPF, NEFT, RTGS, checkbooks, SMS alerts, interest certificates, insufficient balance for ATM transactions, international ATM usage and so on. And the customers are maintaining as low as 10,000 rupees average monthly balance and rupees 25,000 annual maintenance balance in their savings accounts will be offered these services absolutely free of cost.
Well, yes, some cheer for customers there. But with that, we're completely out of, or rather, we're out of time on this segment of the show. We'll slip into a very short break. But before that, let's take a look at the lineup going forward. We have Omkar, who's going to come in and speak about the Accenture forecast, which has been slightly disappointing. And then we have at 8:20 Atul Chaturvedi, who's the Executive Committee Chairman of Sri Renuka Sugars, on the GST updates that have come through. We have then at 9:20 Tahir Badshah, who's going to obviously talk to us about where he sees the markets as a whole. Then we have Ashish Gaikwad coming in at 9:35 from Honeywell, who's going to speak to us about the capex push, long awaited on that one. And then lastly, we have Manish Sabarwal, who's going to come in at 9:45, who's going to speak about hiring trends. We have an action-packed lineup for you all the way till 10 a.m. But with this, we'll slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe with us on ET Now. Quickly taking stock of where Asian markets currently are at. We're seeing a slight bit of positivity on the US futures side, and that's also trickling a bit into the Asia markets side, if I may say so. ASX 200 is absolutely flat. Kospi is up, as you can see, around 1/5%. The Nikkei is down over 1% in trade. We're seeing the Hang Seng higher by around 0.5%. I stand corrected, Kospi is actually down around 1/5%. The Hang Seng is up around 0.5% as we speak, and the Shanghai also is trading in the red. It's down around 2/3% as we speak. So we're seeing a bit of negativity across markets, but we're seeing positivity when it comes to the SGX Nifty. It's up around 1/4% as we speak in early trade today. That's where we're currently at.
Right, and let's quickly look at the stellar lineup that we have for you on the next show, The Market. We have Omkar Tangsale of Axis Securities on the disappointing forecast that Accenture has posted. Also, we have Atul Chaturvedi of Sri Renuka Sugars on the GST decision. We also have Tahir Badshah weighing in on the street, on the market trends from Invesco Mutual Funds. We also have Ashish Gaikwad on Honeywell Automation about the capex push, and we have Manish Sabarwal on the hiring trends that are currently going on.
Well, yes, an absolutely action-packed lineup for you going ahead. But with us currently, it's that time of the show where we bring in both Ashesha and Vamakshi, and I'll move it straight to Ashesha. Ashesha, talk about all the stocks that are in news for us today.
Hi, good morning. So Hinduja Global Solutions will be the first one in focus in today's trading session, and that is because Board of Directors will be considering buyback in the meeting that is scheduled to happen later today. So keep an eye out on Hinduja Global Solutions. Moving on to Edelweiss Financial Services and L&T, these two counters will be in focus because Edelweiss backed platform EAAA has signed definitive agreements to acquire 100% equity stake in L&T Infrastructure Development Projects Private Limited from existing shareholders. And this transaction is expected to be done at a valuation of about 6,000 crores. On account of this, Edelweiss and L&T, both these counters will be in focus in today's trading session. Moving on to Sun Pharma, then they've received a warning letter from US FDA for their Halol facility. The warning letter summarizes violations with respect to current good manufacturing practice regulations. On account of this warning letter, which has been received by Sun Pharma for its Halol facility, Sun Pharma will also be in focus in today's trading session. Moving on to Dilip Buildcon, then the company is in receipt of letter of acceptance for a new HAM project in the state of Telangana, and the order value stands at about 1647 odd crores. Moving on to Phoenix Mills, then Phoenix Mills has announced acquisition of a city-centric 7.22 acre land parcel in Surat, Gujarat for developing a premium retail destination, and the total consideration of this particular project stands at about 510 odd crores. The next set of stocks will be 5-star business, Keynes Technology and Inox Green Energy. Lock in for these stocks ends today, so keep an eye out on these stocks as well. Back to you.
Right, do watch out for the stocks in news. Moving on, we also have Vamakshi in the studio with us. Vamakshi, first, before you give us the brokerages, tell us what's in news for L&T?
Well, absolutely, Ankita. Very good morning to all of you all. Now, Edelweiss backed platform has signed definitive agreements to acquire 100% equity stake in L&T Infrastructure Development Projects Limited, that is L&T IDPL, and that is from existing shareholders, wherein L&T holds a 51% while CPP Investments holds a 49% stake. Now, let's not forget that L&T IDPL portfolio comprises of 9 operating assets. They also have 8 roads spanning nearly 4,900 lane kilometers. They also have 1 power transmission asset as well. Combined assets sold contributed to less than 1.25% of the total revenues. Now, this proposed acquisition will be for an entire enterprise value of almost 6,000 crores, which puts the EV to sales at nearly 3.3 times, all subsidiaries included. Now, the entire JV is expected to receive 2,723 crores, but L&T's consideration out of that is expected to be at 1,389 crores. We also have a brokerage note that has come in on this transaction from Jefferies. They maintain a buy on L&T, given a target price of 2,455 per share. Now, let's see what they're saying. IDPL monetization is expected to add nearly 1.5 to 2% to FY24 as well as FY25 EPS. Buoyant equity markets is helping L&T monetize their drive. Apart from that, they also believe that the valuations are pointing to a re-rating in historical context. So that was the news flow surrounding L&T. Edelweiss backed platform has signed definitive agreements to acquire 100% stake in L&T IDPL, and that is the reason why this counter will be in focus today.
Well, yes, we all will be keeping our eyes out on L&T after that big update, of course. But I'll throw it straight back to Vamakshi. Vamakshi, talk to us about what brokerages and what major brokerages and sectors are saying in news today.
Well, absolutely. Let's first start off with the IT sector. We saw Accenture report their numbers recently, and we have 2 brokerage notes, the first one being from Nomura and the second one from Morgan Stanley. Let's first start off with the note from Nomura. Now, they have retained their cautious stance on the sector. They're preferring large cap IT names over mid cap IT names. They believe that the Accenture order book is continuing to slow, and which is why they have remained concerned on demand outlook for Indian IT services. Apart from that, we also have a note coming from Morgan Stanley, and they believe that the read across Accenture's results for the Indian IT stocks is appearing to be mixed. Cautious commentary on demand could outweigh the positives that are coming in on the margins front. They see limited triggers for re-rating in the near term. So both these brokerages are appearing to be quite cautious as far as the demand outlook is concerned. Apart from that, lastly, we have OMCs on our radar. We have a report that is coming from UBS, and they believe that strong refining margins as well as improving marketing could turn around the fortunes for OMCs. Integrated margins are at multi-quarters high. On the back of that, they've retained a buy rating on state-owned enterprises such as HPCL. HPCL is in fact the preferred pick, and in fact they see HPCL as the biggest beneficiary. So those were all the brokerages and the stocks that you need to keep on your radar for the trading session today.
Right. Thank you so much for all those details, Ubamakshi. Do keep an eye out on all the stocks that were mentioned. Now, moving on, let's shift focus to UTI AMC, as Tata Group is all set to buy majority stake of the UTI AMC from PSU Financial Companies, according to an Economic Times report. Now, the internal approvals for buying the stake are already in. Let's go across to my colleague Sharad to understand more. Over to you, Sharad.
Well, yes, in focus we are having UTI AMC. The company is listed, and Tata Group is in the final stages of acquiring stake from the PSU financial companies which are already holding stake in the company. Now, as per the reports from Economic Times, it was earlier reported as well in the month of August that the internal approvals have started coming in, and of course the approval comes in from T. Rowe Price Group as well, which is holding 23% stake separately in UTI AMC. But which are the four financial companies from the PSU space which are holding almost 45% stake? Let's point out, first one being the PNB, second LIC, SBI, and lastly Bank of Baroda. All of them combined holding is almost 4,400 odd crore rupees. Now look at UTI AMC on a singular level. It's the 8th largest mutual fund house in India. But if we combine them with Tata Mutual Fund, which is basically owned by the Tata Group as well as Tata Investment Corporation and Tata Sons, we'll see it becomes the 4th largest asset manager in India as per the combined AUM which has been taken on the recent data. Of course, the bank-led AMCs which are there in the front, such as SBI Mutual Fund, ICICI Pru Mutual Fund and HDFC Mutual Fund, are the top 3 players in this market. Now looking at the financials over here, we see the combined revenue would go up more than 1600 crore for both the entities, and of course the bulk of that is coming in from UTI AMC. Apart from that, if you see the PAT numbers also, a combined basis would give you at least more than 600 crore rupees of PAT for FY22.
Well, thank you so much for all of that, Sharad. And we'll quickly move on. India will continue to perform well in the coming years, says Adrian Lim of Aberdeen. He remains bullish on Indian banks and select stocks in the IT space as well. He adds that the country will see a return of capital in the coming year. Listen in.
I think we are maintaining where we are at this point in time, where in the regional portfolios it's a slight overweight. And then we also have single country funds which are fully committed to India, so not sitting on a lot of cash. What happens over the next 2 quarters is really dependent on what we see in the markets. There has been a lot of volatility, especially in 2022 as well. And it's very, like you appreciate, it's very difficult to predict the trend going forward. There are some macroeconomic issues that we need to be mindful of. So inflation, recessionary fears are some of those factors. And then we have to drill down to the sectors themselves and look at the strength of demand in the various segments, whether that's capital goods or consumer staples, consumer discretionary, or financial services or software. So we need to be we need to be nimble. We like the stocks that we are backing, but the exact weights we may adjust around a little bit in light of the volatility and the uncertainty that we expect going forward.
Well, a positive outlook coming in there on India by Adrian Lim. Now, let's move on to fertilizer stocks. Now, fertilizer stocks were making the buzz in trade over the week. Now, this was on the back of hopes of a higher subsidy in the upcoming budget. Now, in an exclusive conversation with ET Now, Fertilizer Secretary Arun Singhal says that the subsidy burden will be lower next year as raw material prices have softened. Listen in.
If you look at urea, the 85 to 90% of the total price of urea is because of the price of gas. So better sourcing of gas is extremely critical for urea plants. Now we have started working on this, and I am happy to share with you that in the month of December alone, due to better sourcing of gas by giving up costlier gas and going for cheaper gas which was available in the spot market, we have made a saving of 3,288 crore rupees. Almost 3,300 crores of the taxpayers' money have been saved only in the month of December by better procurement of gas. And we are now taking this forward, making improvements in the EPMC process. We'll work on this continuously, and as I said, this is the most critical reform that is required. If we are able to get cheaper gas, then we can sell cheaper urea. So that is for the urea side. On the DAP and MOP side, we have to import, and therefore we look at diversifying our sources. As I explained in the beginning, if Belarus is not able to supply, we go to other countries. If we are critically dependent on one country alone, then obviously we will not be able to negotiate, we will not have much leverage. So what we do is to diversify our sources. We have many countries from which we import, and that creates a healthy spirit of competition. Prices have been coming down, we are working on that further.
Well, yes, but before we close the show for today, let me also give you a fun fact. There's going to be a lot of chatter around the manner in which Argentina have won, but let's not take away credit from what France has essentially done. A 2-goal deficit has never been overturned since the 1954 World Cup between West Germany and Hungary. And France was almost extremely close to doing that after being completely dominated across the game. So let's give France also that piece of little bit of credit for that amazing match that we saw yesterday. But with that, we're completely out of time in this edition of the show. We're seeing the SGX Nifty up around 30 basis points as we speak. But of course, Market Cafe, the market, will take the action forward, an action-packed day for us going forward.